Belle doesn't wear a corset, and that makes her a feminist. So original.
Too much? Yep.
The marketing for this movie really wanted us to believe that it was the most progressive film of all time, and it was really weird. The exclusively gay moment interview was definitely the most embarrassing, but it wasn't the only thing that we were told to expect in the way of intersectionality.
The exclusively gay moment is important, and it certainly comes into play here, but it'll actually be discussed in full in the next video. It was not something they should have bragged about beforehand. I must atone for my sins.
So Emma Watson and Bill Condon especially touted the idea that Belle was going to be way more feminist than she had been before because she was an inventor now. But she really doesn't do anything to prove that she invents things, and also STEM is not the only career choice for feminists. Using your horse or mule to do laundry really isn't that impressive. Belle doing laundry is as original as Snow White baking a pie for the dwarves. Using her mule to do work is Snow White using the forest animals to clean the cottage. There's no difference. Sure, it's cool that she builds a laundry machine, but it would have had more of an impact if it had actually stuck throughout the film, and if it had any weight whatsoever on Belle's character. It doesn't.
Belle being an inventor is a great example of one of those many unused subplots we talked about in the last video. It's actually kind of a compelling dynamic for the villagers to punish her not for her invention, but for what she does with the free time she gains because of her invention, which is teaching a young girl to read. However, this doesn't amount to anything. It has no bearing on the story because it never comes up again. It's a one and done thing. That's what makes this a hollow gesture.
Tying a rope out a window to climb down the wall does not make you any more special than Fred from Scooby-Doo. Okay, so is that, like, relevant somehow? Or original in any way? No, it's not. It's cliche. Of course she doesn't wear a corset in her small town. She didn't in the original, and corsets were expensive. Belle and Maurice, on the other hand, don't seem to have a ton of money, so like, duh. Plus, Belle's costumes in her town are all about function over fashion. I'm really not angry that Belle doesn't wear a corset throughout the movie, but was it necessary to brag about? Did we need to have this discussion when everybody else at some point in this movie wears a period-specific costume? Does anybody else in the movie even mention that corsets exist?
If we prescribe to Bell Hook's perspective that feminism needs to be more than an identity, but also deliberate actions that challenge patriarchal expectations, then choosing not to wear a corset is a feminist action. Corsets became popular in French fashion because of the way it alters a woman's waist in order to be more attractive in the eyes of a man. However, in this instance, it is not very feminist, and that's because this is a super common trope. Disney movies love to have corsets represent oppressive society, and they love to have their fun lady heroines reject them to show us how cool they are. So it's not very interesting here. That's what we mean when we make fun of it. It's reached a point where it's so ubiquitous that it lacks any kind of meaning.
Disney chairman Bob Iger apparently told Bill Condon that his movie featured the first and second interracial kisses in a live-action Disney movie, but he's wrong. Very wrong. Bob Iger has apparently never seen a Disney movie. Sure, some of the movies that we'll list are animated movies, but still, Bob Iger is not allowed to give credit where it's not due. Here are some Disney movies that feature interracial kisses before 2017's live-action Beauty and the Beast. Princess and the Frog, Snow Dogs, 1997 Cinderella, Hunchback of Notre Dame, High School Musical. Also, two black women kissing two white men is not necessarily intersectional. Is it feminist? In a way. It's certainly revolutionary to see two black women on screen in roles that aren't necessarily stereotypes, where they are clearly adored by their lovers simply by their own virtue, but we hardly get to see Audra McDonald and Gugu Mbatha-raw as human beings. Their kisses with Stanley Tucci and Ewan McGregor, respectively, fall just short of intersectional, though through no fault of their own.
You know, I can understand that people make mistakes. They say things that they turn out to be humiliatingly wrong about. I mean, earlier this week, for this very video, I sent Paige a text where I subtracted 8 from 19, and I thought it was 8. That was wrong. I'm glad it didn't make it into the video. The point is that we say stupid things. However, we don't necessarily have to immediately tell them to reporters or the internet. Maybe they just needed to let the film speak for itself a little. At this rate, I'm honestly a little surprised they didn't brag about the background characters of color.
Perhaps the moral is that you shouldn't brag about how progressive your movie is before it ever comes out, because then you incur the wrath of so many people that want to prove you wrong.
You also set up unrealistic expectations, and when you don't meet those expectations, people make YouTube videos.
We'll see you tomorrow.